Call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, this 12th day of March 2024 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade, Councillors Burick, McGregor, Zbirun, and Neely. Our interim CAO, Ellingson, is here, and our videographer, Jeremy Bergen, is joining us as well. We'll start into the agenda tonight at 1.2, notice of absence. Be it resolved that the notices of absence submitted by Councillor Blosha and Councillor Kushniryk regarding the regular meeting of Council held this 12th day of March 2024 shall be accepted as received. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, someone to second the resolution. Councillor McGregor. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That's carried. Number 2, adopting the agenda. Be it resolved the agenda for the regular meeting of Council held this 12th day of March 2024 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? We'll go with Councillor Burick and Councillor Zbirun. Is there any changes or additions to the agenda anyone wishes to see tonight? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favour?
I wasn't here, so.
Let's move to the minutes, number 3. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held February 27th, 2024 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover for that resolution? Councillor Neely, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. A copy of the minutes are attached to the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review them? Councillor Burick, have you been through them?
Yeah.
No? Any errors or omissions that are noted?
No.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That is carried. Number 4, Public Works Report. Copy is attached to the agenda. I will read through it, and I actually have something to add. A couple things, actually. So under the report tonight, plowed snow from the storm took graders home, ran with 5 machines. We want council to be aware of that. When the snow was getting really bad on the Sunday, we actually moved some of those graders out to make sure that people would be able to get to the graders. So we took them to their yards and plugged them in, and then they started the snow clearing from their home that morning, just so we didn't have to fight to try and get a pickup truck to the shop where there was so much snow. So that seemed to work out fairly well. Unit 49, you'll remember it as the dually. That was the one that was unrepairable, at least we thought. So they've had some time on their hands, as we know, when it wasn't snowing. So they spent some time looking at it, playing with the motor, and determined it's not in as bad a shape as they thought. So they spoke with Transtech from Winnipeg, discussed it. The transmission in the end was removed and sent to Winnipeg. So it needed a 3rd gear, synchro 3/4 gear was damaged, and 2 input shaft bearings. So they fixed it. It's been installed back in the truck, and it's looking like we're going to save $60,000 on a truck.
Right on.
Full trailer and haul the skid steer around.
So they were looking for the 5th wheel attachment for it and couldn't find it anywhere, but then it appeared. So it's there now too. So it even has the 5th wheel pitch in it.
Hallelujah.
I don't want to say they've done a lot of driving on it. I think it's still in process of being reassembled. I think they haven't quite finished one little bit, but they got caught up with snow, obviously, so then it's having to wait a bit. Unit 48, the Kenworth T800 Semi, they tell us it's well underway, should be back and even working by the end of March. Our goal, of course, was to have it by the end of March so that safety's on and we're ready to haul some gravel with it, because there's certainly some spots that are going to need some gravel touch-up. They repaired the front wheel seals on the garbage truck, also rebuilt the dumpster lift mechanism on the garbage truck. They've been working on cleaning snow piles in Benito. If you've been there lately, you know they're not all the way done yet, but they've been working on them when time allows. They've also been opening the roads we have closed for the winter so we don't have water running down them and making them really, really soft, just blowing that snow off now because it looks like we might be done the snow for the year. They're pushing back some banks and corners where needed. They're preparing for ditch cleaning in the regular areas for spring runoff. Brushing is slowed down with all the recent snow. The brusher is going to be moved, brusher head taken off, bucket put on, moved to do the snow ditching for now. Garbage pickup is transitioned to once a week in Kenville, Durban, and curbside in Benito. Bozeman is currently once a week. So we discussed that a bit here at council already, so that change is being made. They've been notifying anyone that needs to move their garbage from the back to the front and working through that process. And they've also been working on the businesses, getting them used to the idea that we're only gonna pick up once a week, but with the dumpster, they have enough space to fit it in, so it should work out well. On the ditch clearing part, we need to know from those with much more experience than perhaps Scott and I, where the ditches are in the north that need someone to go and make a path through the snow.
Like we had Urban doing it all the time, so he knew, but I mean, if we have these, what if we make a map up?
Sure.
Would that be good for me to map up?
If you could do that in the next little while,
Okay.
you know, like
Yeah.
tonight, tomorrow morning.
In other words, we're here first thing in the
Bye,
morning.
Brian.
Have a good morning.
Are you gonna do that here or at home or where? This map. I have a list that I keep for every year, so.
Yeah. Well,
Places
you
to
get,
check, or one place for sure is in Ormonegi property.
yeah, that's the one that I know of for sure, because
Yeah.
I was out there last year too, so I talked to Scott about it.
It's a good half mile long on the
Yeah.
south side of the road there, all the way up to the bins on the hill.
And and I don't know if they're there today, but they were planning on going to the Co-op Agro Road there with the snow blower, just running through the whole ditch with the snow blower to see how that would work.
Make a trench.
Yeah, all we need is just a path,
Yeah, get it started and then large.
so. But yeah, if
So
you
when
could,
you, when would you want it by?
well, I guess it depends when you want those ditches cleared.
Like, it's
Sooner the
nice to
better.
do it early, but sometimes if you
Yeah,
get
you
too
gotta
early,
do
you
it
get a
twice
storm.
then.
Yeah, you
Well,
get a storm with wind.
We're still waiting to see what happens with
Yeah.
runoff, right? The last
Yeah.
couple of days, it's been melting, but it's also been soaking in.
Yes,
If that continues,
Yeah.
maybe we're good.
you might have to do very little.
But just in case, it's good to know where to be watching for those problems.
I will bring in a list of
Okay,
places that are historically a
Trouble.
problem, and Scott can check them. If they need it, they need it. If they don't, they don't.
perfect. If you could make this similar list,
Yeah.
Councillor, it would be good. The other thing that's arrived since this report was created a few hours ago, in Benito, we currently have some localized flooding due to runoff. There's at least one culvert that's blocked, so we are working on that tonight. However, wouldn't be Swan Valley West if there wasn't a complication. So we have a steamer for this, which normally lives inside a heated shop in Benito. Unfortunately, when we went to retrieve it to do this work today, it was no longer there. So we have now located it inside an unheated shop because someone moved it in the summer. The problem is they failed to drain it.
Huh.
So it has been relocated to Durban in the last hour or so, where it's thawing. But then we'll have to be checked to see if there's damage to it. So work continues on that. It's not the news we all wanted to hear, but it is the news of the hour. That's all we know so far until it thaws out and we
If
see
we
what's
run
happening.
into a jam, does Valley Water has
They
that,
do.
don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, Valley Water, they did a lot for us too. At one time, I don't know if they,
Worst case, we'll have them out and take care of it. Our preference would be to do it ourselves because it's cheaper, but we'll get the work done.
Especially when you got a unit sitting right there. But it was not working, I guess.
Yes.
So, any other discussion on public works tonight? Number 5, general business. We actually don't have anything on that agenda item tonight. Most of it's all in discussion. So we move to number 6, financial items, general checks. Be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 19560 to 19592 in the amount of $69,523.12. Is there someone that wishes to move the resolution? Councillor Burick, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. Copy of the check printouts attached. I have the checks here. The one I see that's of note is the last check. It's issued to Brad Kushniryk. It's actually reimbursing a MasterCard bill, and that is from the transmission folks. So it's $5,269.46 for the rebuild. It notes it comes with a 1-year warranty.
So we had to pay it up front.
I
Or
think
what?
so. I think they took it apart and then they said, yes, it could be fixed, and then we had to pay, from what I
But they
understand.
wanted to be paid up front.
Yeah.
don't we have a card, no? Don't we have a card? Or why is it?
That particular moment we didn't have, because it was ready and there was someone there that could deal with it.
Okay,
There was a way to get cheaper freight, from what I understand, if it was paid immediately because there was someone that could give it a ride.
Oh,
So it's safe having ship. Questions on any other checks tonight?
that was my only question.
Okay. I noticed the Benito landfill is a little pricey. That includes a bunch of sand hauled there again. So there's $2,000 in moving sand, which, you know, we could probably move ourselves once we had the truck working a little better. And, you know, when we have some spare time, we could probably cut that back a little bit. Otherwise, the rest of it was as expected, you know, to clean up the site and cover the garbage and such. Just,
How often do we do this?
I think our agreement is to do it once a week, roughly. This is only 3 times, though. There was 1 missed.
Okay, this is, half of this amount is for three times.
It's
So-
required to be done once a week. They
Yeah.
stretch it a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, we're supposed to do it once a week, but sometimes it was done the 8th, the 23rd, and the 30th of January.
Not cheap, eh?
No, I don't think I saw anything else really particularly notable either. Anybody else last chance for questions? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? That is carried. 6.2, payroll checks. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 333 to 347 in the amount of $21,234.09. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Neely, and someone to second the resolution? Councillor Zbirun. Copy of the payroll is attached in the private view for council to look at. I did entertain a little discussion about what we were discussing last time around with vacation. That the question came up of, sorry, not vacation, overtime payments. And part of that is still summer hours. So it's the bank time from summer being slowly paid out. If that helps anybody with their question of why that is. It's been 15 hours.
How much longer is it gonna carry on for?
I don't have that number in front of me.
It tells you how many hours are left, doesn't it? No,
It does
No,
not,
it doesn't.
because it's not tracked in that payroll system.
Some have more than that.
just shows you total for the year.
Yeah, just, and that's only what's actually been paid out of it. It doesn't show you what is actually in the bank, because that's in a separate system right now. Any other questions for payroll type stuff? Call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? That's carried. Budget 2024. What would availability be like for Wednesday or Thursday next week for people to get together 7 PM to go through the budget? Which would be better? Does anyone have a preference? Wednesday or Thursday?
I think so.
Thursday would be better? Okay, so we will set a meeting for Thursday at 7 PM.
What date is Thursday?
It will be March
21st.
21st.
Oh, first day of spring.
It's not Valentine's.
No, not absolutely. Okay, can I ask you one question?
Sure.
When are we having a transportation meeting?
There isn't currently one scheduled.
No, I know. When can we have one?
When would you like one?
As soon as possible. Like next week, not this, it's already, no. But Thursday, we're gonna have the budget.
So you want to do it Thursday as well, or you want to do it
Oh,
differently?
that's a pretty long day.
Okay,
We're
so
gonna
what would
do
you
the
prefer?
budget will be a taxing evening probably.
Okay, so I'll ask staff to figure out a date
Sometime
next week.
next week, yeah. And that, what's that,
That works.
about 10 o'clock, we're gonna have one, when is good for you, or evening is better?
Always evening.
Evening, or maybe evening, maybe 8. We had it at 10 o'clock before, but if RJ can't make it, I don't know, I think she can make it now, because she doesn't work anymore.
As long as you're willing to pay overtime for everybody to be here, yes.
Are you serious?
Well,
You'll be
for
paying overtime
employees.
to the CAO and for the foreman, or lead hand.
No, but RJ can't make day though.
So,
Because I think he should have input in his area too, like, I mean, I don't know, pay a little bit of overtime, I guess.
okay, we'll survey and see if there's availability for that.
Yeah,
Can't promise there is, but we'll
Yeah.
find out.
but no, we should have one that's already middle of gonna be middle of March.
Anything else on budget discussion?
Nope.
Okay, we'll send out, I assume emails or something, but you all know.
I just have a question.
Sure.
Are we gonna have paper copies?
We can make you some. Will we make it on bigger paper so it's easier to see too?
Well, it's nice to have everyone to make notes and stuff.
Okay, I think we'll do like paper for everybody, and we'll do it up on the screen, so as we
Yeah.
make changes, we can see the total, if that works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure you have the ward numbers too, like said.
Oh,
Ward 6 equals 0.
Ward 6 gets 90% of the budget.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anything else on that topic? Hearing nothing. We'll move to discussion item 7.1, engineering services for a leachate pond. So let's get into this. We know now finally the answer on the leachate pond for the Benito landfill. I think we may have heard some of this before. When we all arrived here in the fall of 22, previous council was in the middle of building a leachate pond. But then through staff changes, nobody knew if we actually needed one or not. So all of last summer, the discussion raged on about whether a leachate pond was a requirement or a wish. It's now been clarified for us that it is a requirement and why. When they dug the current cell, they hit a spring. It's a small spring, but water is entering the current cell, which is why it doesn't ever dry out completely. So while last year it was much drier and it dried out a lot and we had hoped we didn't need this, apparently it is a requirement because of having hit that we have, basically it's an evaporation pond. So it's an area where we will pump the water into, and then the sun will evaporate it into the air, and we can all breathe it, and it won't go into the groundwater. So we are required to have one or be fined. We cannot just build one because we don't have the expertise to know how to build something for the water to evaporate out of without an engineer telling us, according to the Manitoba government. So attached is a quote from our engineer that does our landfill work, because they have the soil sampling. We don't have to buy it from them, but if we don't, we then have to have the next engineer start over with soil sampling, because these folks already have all of that, whereas the next one wouldn't. If you haven't read it already, thankfully you're all city, it's $19,787 to get a drawing of what to build. We can then build it ourselves.
20,000.
That's what it's gonna cost to get the engineer to engineer it for us.
And do we have somebody watching us build it then? To make sure it's done properly? How does it work? Is this the one, there's a whole bunch of other things that aren't included?
There is a list of stuff here
Yeah.
that kind of lists out all the duties. From my understanding, and I don't want to speak with total authority, that once this is built, we would probably send in photos of it.
Where is
Excluded.
this being
And
built?
This has to be built beside the existing cell at the landfill, but from what I understand, there's space to build it that won't impact the next cell. So it can be used for both.
Okay.
It won't be
Okay.
built and then move it. There's a spot that this can be put so that it doesn't just have to get moved when we move again. And from what I understand, Mr. Yonkers also, I don't know if he's there full time, but he certainly is there fairly often to critique our building
And then
skills.
there's all these exclusions in 3.0, 7 exclusions.
Mhm.
You're not getting much for 20 grand.
We're not.
Since you're gonna add all this, if you have a meeting with them, that's extra. If you have this,
Yeah.
everything's extra. But I guess what choice do we have?
Very little, unfortunately.
None.
Dave will give us as much help as he can. like
So this is gonna start in the
research
spring time?
About how to do something or what exactly the requirement is.
For what
So I
we're-
don't see it being a problem. Dave
Anymore.
Younger,
Anymore. You don't think we'll have to go through any of these exclusions?
no,
One more thing,
I can't speak very well to why we didn't know this earlier, until all of a sudden a letter came from Mr. Yonker saying, why didn't you have it done yet? Which, maybe if we'd known about it in the spring last year, it could have been done already, but,
did they give us a time frame?
oh yeah, yesterday.
Well, they wanna know by the
Yes.
April 30th or something. It's gotta be done, it can't be done by.
No, but we have to show progression, so we have to show we have the engineering work done and we're ready to build and
So this 19,000, is that not the, or is that just the soil?
That's the engineering. Soil is done.
Soil's done.
Soil samples are done. So this is just the engineering. It's just, the government is the one that wants to fine us if we don't do it. So as long as we show progression, that
Okay.
yes, we've hired the engineer, the drawings come back, and as soon as it's dry, we build it.
So we sign the line and ship it off.
Yeah.
Let them get at her. No choices anymore, right? You don't have no choice.
It's simple.
Just get her done.
Yep.
So we happen to have a resolution prepared. Whereas the municipality of Swan Valley West is required to construct a leachate pond at the Benito landfill, and whereas the construction must meet the standards provided for in an engineered leachate pond design, therefore be it resolved that the quotation received from J.R. Cousins Engineering Consultants be approved as received. Is there someone that wishes to move the
Okay,
resolution?
come on, Benito.
Come on, we got Benito, let's go.
Councillor Zbirun, someone to second the
You're
resolution.
closest.
Councillor McGregor. So we are, of course, sole sourcing this. You probably caught that from the discussion. And the reason we're choosing to sole source is because the engineer has worked at that site already,
Yeah.
engineered the work that's already there, so it's a continuation of that work rather than tendering from scratch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 7.2, this is exciting. Manitoba Water Services Board. We have received correspondence from the board. They are looking for our updated list of capital works projects. Specifically, there's a letter attached there for you that explains the process. They are due April 30th. It's a 5-year plan. The letter also explains the changes to the funding formula for rural water pipelines. So as of this year, they will begin funding them on a 2/3, 1/3 basis. So the province pays for 2/3, the users pay for 1/3. Which is great news. That's what we were hoping and what we were told was happening, but this confirms it. We did talk at our last meeting about getting our ducks in a row for that water pipeline, so that will continue on with now a deadline of being done before the 30th of April. But also attached is Rural Water Phase 1 map. So this is being proposed as the Phase 1 part of that project that would go as soon as possible. This map comes from the connection point from the town of Swan River, travels to the north along the number 10 bypass and terminates at Spruce Products Limited. I have spoken to the primary water user, being Spruce Products. They are in agreement to pay their third for the pipeline. Quote for the pipeline is also attached. It's quoted in the private view because it's a quote that we haven't acted on yet, and that's our policy, but it's there for council to look at. So the approximate cost of this would be about $500,000. And this would also provide water to any residences along the way if we wanted, at an additional cost of digging it into them. So the first priority will be to survey those houses along the path here to see if anyone there wants to connect. Because that, if it's all done at the same time, the province would cover 2/3 of that as well. And then they would be left to pay their 1/3.
Yeah, it used to be a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 program, federal government.
And there's hope that the federal government may come up with some money. Certainly the federal government needs to buy some votes in the next couple of months, and their budget's due. However, votes in Manitoba are hard to come by if you're a Liberal.
They might have to buy more than a couple votes.
Yes, so I don't know if the programs will focus on things that we need here or not. They may focus more on Ontario needs, but we'll see what happens. In any
Well,
case, this would get us started.
Start here, and
The town had indicated at one point they hoped we would build a reservoir on our pipeline to hold water in case they weren't able to provide it at some point. It's not a requirement, it was a wish. There's no plans for that here, but having this pipeline put out that far, you'll notice there's also raw water available there in that particular neck of the woods from the aquifer. So you certainly could source water there someday
a couple of
too.
years ago, there was a problem there, right? So maybe 3 days or 4 days, there was no water.
Yeah. And so, in the future, that would be a phase 2 thing. If there was a reservoir there, you could fairly cheaply also put the chlorination system on it to chlorinate raw water. And you could source water from either location to feed the pipeline.
The water agreement with the town, what's happening on that front?
There is a signed agreement. It's not ideal.
Yeah, so that's that old one from years ago. Or-
3 years ago.
Oh, just 3 years ago.
It's the one that provides for the massive capital payment. So we'll need to work on that.
Okay. Yeah, that's very important. That's part.
Yeah, and I think
You don't have a supply, there's not much use putting the line in.
Well, that's kind of the politics of that particular piece of the line is in a place that you could drill a well. And so perhaps negotiations go better if both partners remember that there's two options. It would be silly to build a new treatment plant,
Yeah,
but you could. And so let's negotiate well.
especially when the volume's already there.
You know, why not use that?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's mostly for information, but note that date before April 30th. We'll be back with wanting to have those forms filled out and propose some things to the province.
It's good news.
I think so. Very good news. 7.2, a copy of the Benito LUD service plan is attached. We are to meet with the LUD at some point. We don't have a meeting date set yet. We may canvass them for that budget meeting night and see if they're available, because we have to sit down in the same room and say, if we like this, if we don't like it, ask our questions, let them ask questions. It's a requirement of the act. We discuss it with them. So this is what's been proposed, but we need to put them in the room at some point and talk about it. And then we can make a decision if we're accepting it or not, once we've had a discussion with them and asked our questions. But a copy is attached, so you can sort of see where they're thinking right now.
Personally, I get confused between at-large and urban, and I'm not sure what's covered by what, you know. Been like that for 8 years. 10 years though.
I think we'll probably just punt it to budget night if they're available, because we can spend 20 minutes with them that night and clear it, be done. And then just do the rest of the budget. If not, we'll bring them to our next council meeting. So I don't think we want to have a special meeting just for 20 minutes. Doesn't make a lot of sense. But we'll figure something out and get them discussed, because we have to have the discussion, settle whatever we want to settle, and then we have to actually pass it before we can finish the budget. We're a couple weeks away from budget at least.
I guess my only question really is what about 35% going into reserves? That would be my only. It's just a
And I think-
question, I'm not trying to be,
And I think we should ask that. And we don't even have the rep here tonight to explain what they talked about.
yeah.
But I wanna know why they're putting so much into reserves, because I don't necessarily, I understand the development, recreation thing, totally get that, I just don't understand what the reserve payment is for, and we should understand that.
I can understand if it was the water and sewer,
Mhm.
but that's different, right?
Yeah. I think there's a little discussion to be had there, just to see what they're up to. 7.3, fire protection agreement. A copy of a draft agreement is attached in the private view. This is between Swan Valley West and the RM of St. Philip's, number 301 for Saskatchewan. The existing agreement has lapsed. We have been in contact with the municipality and informed them that we are still responding to fires in their area because we're good neighbors. However, both municipalities have agreed we should sign a new agreement to bring us back to current terms. An issue here is the pricing in the agreement is very different than what we signed with the Arm of Livingston. So we want to seek some direction from council, if it's simple direction here, otherwise we can take it in camera later. As far as what you want to see done for the pricing, if you want something similar to Livingston. Right now, the old agreement provides for a set rate per hour for calls, which is quite low. It hasn't been revised in some time. And then it provides for a percentage of the annual operating costs. And the thought was maybe we should move that to just a set rate like we did with the other municipality as well. Does anyone have thoughts on that?
I think we need to discuss how much they're paying.
Okay.
Not?
Yeah, it seems we could have better options than this.
No. But maybe speak more about it in camera.
Okay, so we'll take the topic in camera. 7.4, this is scheduled for the open as well. We'll start and we'll see where we go. Whereas the council, the municipality of Swan Valley West has received a resignation from a grader operator citing family matters. Therefore be it resolved that we accept the resignation from D. Moore with regrets and thank him for his service to the municipality. Is there someone that wishes to move the resolution?
Yes.
Councillor
Oh,
Burick and Councillor
I'll say much about it.
So I can further add, Mr. Moore, as you know, has been here for the summer season and the winter season. We met with him the other day. He cited some reasons which I could share in camera as to why he's leaving. They weren't work-related reasons. They were more of a family matter. So he was sad to go, but wished us well, and we wished him well. And I also wanted to mention the number of people who have called to compliment him. And I actually had another person call just the other day after we'd already received the resignation and said, make sure he keeps doing my road. I said, oh, that's going to be difficult. But certainly a lot of people were very happy with the work he did while he was here. So
Who's
it was
working in
good.
that area now then?
This resignation came after we finished plowing the snow. So no name in that spot quite yet. Remind me in camera, I'll share the rest of it. It's on my list, but in case I forget. Any other discussion for the resolution? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 7.5, we have an inquiry on a property. This will probably have to go in camera as well. But we did receive a letter from, oh, I see there's a lot more stuff attached than just the letter. So the first page is the actual letter, the rest of it was a scan by accident. So it's to whom it may concern, showing interest in the house on 149 Railway Avenue East in Benito. This is one of the houses we were considering demolishing. So we don't know the state of the house yet. I don't know that we're in a position to answer this, other than to go and actually take a look inside there and see what's going on, if there's any hope for it. But it is someone wishing to purchase it.
Get our building inspector to inspect it.
Perhaps them and Public Works together, just to, and then if we were to sell it, I think we would have to have some conditions of,
As is type thing.
well, as is, but with the requirement that it must be made habitable within a
Yeah.
year, you know? So we don't just sell an old abandoned house and have someone paying us $100 a year and leaving it there. 'Cause if it can't be lived in, it should go away. It shouldn't just be,
Why, yeah, but it's not livable, and
Yeah.
we're not doing anybody any justice.
I don't think we wanna be in a position where we sell off the house and then it's used for storage or something. Let's get somebody living there.
Yeah.
So, we will probably have staff maybe look into it some more, building inspector and such, and see what our opinion of the structure is. It's got a good roof, but I've heard some stories that the rest isn't so good. So,
Well, it's sort of a shame when people are looking for housing.
I know. And if it could be fixed, it would be great, but if it can't be, we need to get it torn down and build something else there. Get someone living in that spot. So, any other discussion on that? We'll move to 7.6. Be it resolved, the February report of the Animal Control Officer be accepted as received and approved for payment. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Neely, someone to second the resolution? Councillor Zbirun. A copy of the report is attached. Several items on there. Live trap set in Benito. Requests from a rural resident for a live trap. Another one in Benito. Live trap to capture a stray cat that's bothering someone else's cats. It is springtime, I can imagine how they're bothering them. Pickup of a trap in Benito, and I can't read the entire thing, but a dog at large somewhere.
And we didn't catch any wolves.
No wolves and no cougars. Neither type of
Okey-dokey.
cougar. Any questions or discussion on the report? Hearing none, we'll call the question of the resolution. Those in favor? That is carried. 7.7, we wanted to provide a bylaw enforcement update tonight. So we could discuss this further in camera, but there's some of it we can share publicly, so we wanted to do that tonight. So we can advise that we have sent letters of violation to several properties in the Kenville area for violation of our unsightly property bylaw, and also some safety concerns with some of those properties. They have been given a compliance date to bring themselves into compliance, failing which we may take action. I can further advise that one of those property owners has been in contact with us and is working on an agreement to begin cleaning the property and solving the issue, but they're concerned they might not be done by our compliance date. So they were told as long as we're seeing progress on it and it's getting better, we have no problem waiting and letting them finish, but we need to see some progress by the compliance date. We've also additionally sent out letters to 2 persons that are in gross violation of our animal control bylaw, specifically with regard to the number of animals present. They have been given the opportunity to appear at our next council meeting to state their case to council, essentially a show cause hearing to either bring themselves into compliance or explain to us why we should not be issuing the fines that are due. And we'll make a decision that night on whether we're issuing those fines, depending on what we hear from them when they come in. But that's what we can share publicly, at least. And the rest of it we can take up in camera. Durban Cemetery 7-8. I had the opportunity to attend a Durban Cemetery meeting. A copy of the letter is attached, and minutes from that meeting are attached. The Cole's notes of the letter is, I guess I have them backwards. The letter is under minutes, the minutes is under letter. You could write that down because the Reeve did it. I scanned them backwards. They're wishing to change the name of the cemetery. So many, many years ago, the cemetery was named the Durban Joint Stock Cemetery. They wish to change the name to the Durban Community Cemetery. They have passed a resolution of their meeting, and they have sent it to us for us to conduct some version of magic to change the name of the cemetery. So, is there anyone that would have a concern of us changing the name for them to Durban Community Cemetery?
I thought it was that already.
It is not. We don't yet know how to proceed with that magic, but we're researching the topic. They think it's a land titles thing, we think it is not. We believe it is simply a stroke of a pen here by resolution. We're just making sure of that before we do it and find out somebody else had to be involved. But it looks like we can probably just change the name, so we'll likely see resolution on that shortly. But we'll just get our ducks in a row and make sure that changing the name of a cemetery isn't a bigger deal than we think it is. They have an interesting story here, and it's attached to the agenda if anyone wants to go read it, of how it came to be. A gentleman's wife passed away and there was no cemetery, so he donated the land from the Thomas family, which was quite interesting. But then there was no one to donate the land to. So they had to form a corporation for him to donate the land to, and people bought shares in the corporation, and the corporation owned the cemetery for a while. And eventually, as they all passed away, the corporation ceased, and there it was. And there it is still. So these days, Swan Valley West is the title holder of it. But there's some interesting history there. They also discussed at their meeting a new cemetery board, so they have elected a new board. Mr. Actor has taken the reins on that. He was in today. He's doing a lot of work to update the mapping of the cemetery, make sure everything's in order, that we know where the people are buried there and who is buried there. So that work will be ongoing. They are also erecting a sign at the cemetery because there isn't one there now. So they're going to put up a sign, and they've actually had some donations to that. But they do have some money as well. So they have, let's see if it says it here, $15,021.54 currently in their bank account. So they're quite well off. They're going to spend a few $100s of that on the sign. And they're also going to do some work on the building. They've got some new plans to have work bees a couple times this summer. So it looks like the cemetery's in good hands there, and we won't have to worry about it for a while.
So they're gonna need to know what name to put on the sign?
The sign has already been specified to be the Durban Community Cemetery. I don't see a copy. They had it at the meeting, they had a picture of the sign. It's not attached to what they sent us. It's a metal sign with a cutout, so it looks quite nice. It's supposed to be good enough to withstand wind and such. So they're just working on exactly where to place it so that it doesn't interfere with snow moving when they need to get in there in the wintertime. It was good. You probably remember I was at a meeting a few months ago with them too, and the question was if we had to take over the cemetery or not, and it's been well and truly settled that we do not. So we thank the committee for the work, because anytime the committee keeps doing it, they do a better job than we do, and they certainly help us out quite a bit. Anything further on the Zbirun Cemetery? Moving to 7-9, Road 172 speed concerns. Had a call from a resident. This is immediately north of the ditch road, Road 172, between the bridge and the ditch road. They're quite concerned about the speed of traffic in that area. They say some people are slowing down, but a lot are traveling very quickly. They feel 100 kilometers an hour or more. And there's been some very big near misses there with the semi-traffic that's going in and out. They asked specifically that council turn our attention to what could be done, if anything.
What did we do over there east of, or west of Pioneer before, Brian? We put something up there.
West of Pioneer, we put a restriction on there, yeah, 70 kilometers. But we had to go to Dauphin for, it was a public hearing. Like, not a public hearing, but we had to meet with highways.
We are now the authority for speed limits.
We don't need approval from, or send a
Only
request.
if it's on a provincial road or highway. We're
Okay.
now the full authority for our own roads. So
Oh,
we
we
can,
do?
yeah, we can.
I
take
know
our own
there
speed
was
limits.
some red tape last time.
No, we had to, I went to Dauphin, yeah. And presented it, and it was okayed there. Everybody just had to go through the process of it. Well, yeah, we
can't
reduced
use
it
them
to,
ourselves.
we reduced it to 70.
Well, I would say we should too, because if you're heading south, you're coming up the hill there. And,
And I think that's a lot of the near misses, right?
yeah,
Slower traffic coming out of the approach, people coming up the hill very quickly,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of stopping distance.
at least for 200 yards or more south of the residence. The bridge is already restricted. It's down to, well, supposedly 50 or something.
Supposedly.
But, I mean, there's already a sign at the bridge, right?
So would they want the restriction from the bridge south?
Yes. Up at least half a mile likely.
And there's an anhydrous site there too, right? So
Yeah,
that's also,
critical issue on the east side of the road there, so. At least this side of that, I suppose. By then, you're almost at the ditch road anyways.
close, yeah. So we cannot do this tonight because we don't have our ducks in a row for the bylaw for it, but we do have the authority to do it. So we will work towards that goal if everybody's in agreement.
So we set at 70 then?
75, or 70, yeah.
So please, okay.
Say, and go right from the ditch road then, if you say we're almost there anyway, so go right from the ditch
What,
road.
another half mile? Yeah.
We'll check our traffic guide too for how far that zone should extend. Because there's several hundred pages there of how to properly set a speed zone. So we'll go through that. At the same time as we do this, we will also be setting the speed limits in Benito to a reasonable 50 kilometers an hour. Unless somebody wants it slower. Because right now the speed limit in Benito is not 50. But we will correct that.
It's not.
No, it's currently 90.
Where, on the highway?
Nope, not on the residential streets.
On Main Street there.
Well, Main Street is actually 50.
Oh, I see.
It's all the side streets are 90. Long story. When we became the traffic authority, we were required to pass a bylaw setting the speed limits because the province removed all the previous speed limits. But there is no such bylaw in Swan Valley West. So there are no speed limits in our municipality except for 90.
No.
So they automatically become 90 then, or what?
Yes.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. And well, there are some signs in some places.
Yeah.
If a ticket was written for them.
It could be defeated.
Not that a ticket would ever be written where those signs are, unfortunately. You know, that it would be nice if someone would sometimes, but yeah, there would be an issue.
It's not patrol day. Not enforced.
And we talked previously about maybe having a mobile speed reader sign, right? Put it a week here, a week there, a week someplace else to try and get some compliance, but that's something we can keep discussing.
And some of that traffic, we talked about just a little earlier, is truck traffic too.
Which should be going slower.
Yeah.
We'd save a lot of gravel
If
it
we don't
wasn't traveling
grade it,
that
maybe that'll help.
We could just dig little holes here and there.
Make some washboard.
Speed bump. Put a speed bump.
Isn't that very soft in there? That's in your area. That's very soft. Isn't the road soft from the, it's kind of in the bog there, isn't it in the bog or is it in the bog?
I was out there last spring, it didn't seem too bad.
I think it's
Went to look
fairly
at the-
good.
Went to look at the water problem.
I did speak to the same person about the water thing. We're setting a date for that, but I gave him the brief overview of what we found with the survey. And he's essentially fine with us.
Yeah, I mentioned it to him too one day, but the landowner across the way should likely be
Yeah, we need to have them in.
notified that this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then they can excavate accordingly.
Can you add it to your to-do list to help us set a date for that?
Meeting with the resident.
With both sides of the road.
Maybe it's tight, so.
Yeah, we'll find out. They have a wonderful way of finding out who owns something. Anything else on the road speed? No, we'll move to 7:10, Benito Recreation Center. So for council's view, year-to-date financials from the rec center are attached, just in case you're curious how the winter's going. We met with the committee last night, so Councillor Zbirun was there, Councillor Kushniryk, myself, and our interim CAO met with the Benito Recreation Center Inc. board, whatever they call themselves. And so we had quite a lot of discussion with them. And you know, we've been discussing it here a bit. So we kind of were on a bit of a fact-finding mission to see how things are going at the rink, see what they need from us, see what we can do to help, what changes could be made if they need any. So we discussed, we're at about an hour and a half or so. A few things came up. So one is on the topic of the $10,000 of giving them, not giving them, what to do with that. We discussed for quite a while what would be appropriate, and one of the suggestions is perhaps instead of giving $10,000, we should be paying the hydro bill. And then we would essentially be paying the utilities for the building, the volunteers would run it, we would look after keeping the building there by paying for the insurance, the water, the hydro. So that's something we'll have to discuss, and obviously we're missing a couple tonight, but a budget meeting,
It makes more sense,
it does. And,
really.
you know, technically speaking, we own that building.
Yeah.
So if that volunteer committee walks away tomorrow, then what do? Because suddenly we're running a building with public works staff, which is not ideal. You know, that committee saves us a pile of money and keeps that rink operating, and they do an incredibly good job at it. If you haven't been there recently, the upgrades in the last 15 years, you know, it doesn't look like the same building anymore. Everything is fancier and better. So they've done well. Councillor Zbirun, I see, has a point.
We, after you guys left, I know, and I'll give you my report, but I just wanted to mention they're having trouble with their safety lights
Okay.
that come on automatically, and there's two of them, and they said the price of them is about $75, and they were wondering if we would take care of that for them.
We'll probably defer it to the budget maybe next week, and we can discuss that
Just
too.
keep in mind or whatever that.
We discussed some other things. So we also discussed the internet we need to have at all our locations in Benito for those cameras and alarm systems and such. They have internet at the rink, and it's fairly good internet. And we have internet at the fire hall we pay for. So the question was perhaps using one internet for both, rather than paying for it at both places. They pay for the one at the rink obviously right now, but maybe there'd be some horse trading done there too. And if we don't have to pay for it at the fire hall anymore and use the rink one, we'll see what happens there. But they were quite agreeable to that. We discussed a little bit about putting a camera to look at this skate park beside the rink. It's somewhat of a liability thing, but it would also show us the campground, so we knew if someone was camping there or not. There was some discussion at the meeting about, you know, Big Brother and watching everybody, but the idea wasn't to watch everybody everywhere, but certainly the skate park, if there was to be an issue there, I know our insurance company would be quite interested in seeing what happened if there was a claim of liability for something there. So they're basically good with that as long as we're not putting cameras inside the building watching people going about their business, right? So there's an option there. And we discussed, I think, the most exciting thing, and we'll see how everybody else feels about it. The concession in the rink has essentially been rebuilt to the point of being a restaurant. And Benito at the moment is short a restaurant. They don't have one. So the discussion was going on how the rink board would feel about the possibility of tendering out the concession to be operated as a full-time restaurant. So 6 or 7 day a week restaurant that served lunch and supper and was there for coffee and has a place where people could go and have some fellowship. And I know there's a lot of people in Benito, you know, that are maybe more seniors that would like to have a place for coffee in the afternoon and maybe have a sandwich some days or what have you. The rink board has already been discussing that a little bit. So we discussed a bit how that could work. They're doing some number checking on what they make from the concession, because it is a fundraiser for them, but it doesn't raise, it's not multi-millions of dollars. You know, it's a few $1,000s a year. So we threw a few numbers around. There's nothing solid on this, but you know, the thought of what if for $500 a month we let someone operate a restaurant over there? We're essentially paying the bills anyway, it would provide something to Benito, and it would certainly, improve the town, improve a lot of things, and it doesn't really cost us much. But the trade-off would be there would be some rules that had to follow. So there would be certain, had to be open. It wasn't just show up a couple times a week. No, if you do this and you tender on it and you win, you have to be there 6 days a week or 7 days a week or whatever the decision gets to be. And essentially replace the fundraising money with the rent from the restaurant to get something going on in Benito again. So still early times there. The rink board was going to discuss. They probably did some more after our main delegation left. And the hope was in a week or two they would have some numbers to talk to us about for what they thought could be done. Our suggestion was that because Swan Valley West owns a facility, we would enter into the agreement, but we would look to the rink board to make some selections. So, we'd advertise a tender type process, anyone could bid on it. Probably not necessarily a tender for money, right, where it's not like who's willing to pay the most, more based on who's willing to provide the best service. Here's what's gonna cost, what will you do for this? Will you guarantee 7 days, will you guarantee 6 days? So much discussion to be had, but we would look to the rink board to kind of give guidance on who should be there through a process, because they have to work with them every day. But then we would have the contract with them, because we might be a little more miserable on enforcing.
Well, whatever they made, they would keep.
Yeah.
Councillor McGregor.
There is a small cafe gonna be opening in Benito, but we'll talk about it in camera.
Okay.
Okay?
On the Benito aspect, anything more in the rec center before I go on? So earlier today, we were notified that the grocery store in Benito is permanently closing as of May 31st.
May 31st?
Yes,
That new place, well, not new place, but just open up, not long.
No,
the family foods. So certainly, we can't buy a grocery store, but we will be in contact with them shortly to see if there's anything that can be done to attempt to find a new owner for them. I know they've been trying to sell the business, and the issue is they want to retire. And so if there's something we could do to help them connect with someone to buy it, certainly we don't want to lose a grocery store in Benito. But unfortunately, I think the poster's gone up late this afternoon in the window saying it's closing. And not great news. So we'll have to see if we can, I don't know what we have for options other than maybe a matchmaking service of trying to get somebody interested, but whatever we can do,
We'll
we'll try.
talk about this in camera too. I got a little bit of information that.
Okay. If everyone's good, we'll move on to 7-Eleven, the library budget. So I'm pleased to announce the library board finally managed to pass a budget.
A balance.
It's balanced, and it's good. So a copy of the budget's attached in the public view, so anyone can take a look at it. They want to see what the library is up to this year. The contribution from Swan Valley West is set to be $69,869.88. Last year we were to give them $69,169, but we actually gave them $70,000. We just rounded up to 70 because that's what was in the budget, and they were broke. So it goes up by about $700 to us. The town's contribution, however, goes up substantially more. There's raises from $98,142 to $102,538. The reason for that increase is that there is an increase to the operating budget of the library, but the calculation last year was incorrect as to the population in each municipality. And this particular item is split by population. So once that was corrected, the Swan Valley West amount went up very little. The town amount went up by about $4,000. The town council, to my understanding, has not yet passed this budget. So obviously we will see what they do. It's within our tolerance of what we discussed at council for what we would be willing to provide for this year. So we'll bring this forward to our budgeting session as well. I did mention it wasn't the best budget. I don't believe it's a particularly good budget. My concerns I expressed to the library board, but I'm only one vote. There's nothing here that provides for the betterment of the library. It provides for higher expenses, and some of those expenses are actually paid for by old money being caught up. So there's an insurance claim from the flood that hasn't been fully paid out. So the money that's going to be paid out of that claim to pay for expenses that were incurred another year is going to be spent in this budget instead of replacing the money that was previously spent. You know, so money was drawn out of reserves to pay for the flood. And now when that money comes back, it's going to be used on current year stuff, not go back into the reserves, which is troubling because it means that next year that magical money won't appear and the budget is then no longer balanced. It provides for raises for the majority of the staff. It provides for some additional hours for some of the staff. It provides for additional opening hours for the Swan River Library. It provides for a head librarian to be hired with, I believe it's 35 hours a week. What it provides very little for is books. There's only $14,000 in the budget for books out of a $270,000 budget for a library. There's also very little for example, the children's programming. There's $1,000 to run children's programming. So it's, to my way of thinking, this is very difficult still. If you hire a new head librarian and you task them with make this library amazing and really double or triple the use is what we want. Let's get some people using this, and then say there's no money to do any of that. It will be a challenge for whoever takes the reins there, but it is the budget the board agreed to, so unless the funding partners have some substantial concern with it. Councillor Neely.
Audit accounting, $11,000. That's a lot of money for that size of a budget, eh?
It is. It's roughly twice as much as it should be. My understanding is that a previous board tendered for the service, and because of their state of their financial management, the tenders came in high.
That's, oh, I see.
And
About the
that's-
previous year here, that's about 18 grand.
So in that particular year, no one at the library could figure out how to issue paychecks for a while.
Oh,
So the additional money is the fees for issuing paychecks to staff.
that's not just so much compared to the size of the budget, it's just,
It's substantial.
caretaking, and shit.
That is also substantial. The caretaking budget is high. There's been some ongoing discussion there of retendering the caretaking to see if perhaps there's a more cost-effective option.
That's a couple that stick out big time, right? Hydro's not cheap there either.
No, and remember that's for 2 buildings. That's both Swan River and Benito.
Oh, right,
So
right,
on
right.
that.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, there's certainly some expense there.
Yeah, okay, well, that's, yeah. Well, at least there's a budget.
There is a budget, which is good. Last year's spending on computers was $133. But the computers are all ruled out of date now. So work is underway to see if there may be a business willing to donate a couple computers to the library to get them something a little newer. There's been some grant applications put in last week's looking for some funding to buy some computers. But the entertainment, I guess is a good way to put it, remains that if you look at other library budgets for similar operations, this budget does not look like those at all. There's way too much spent on labor here. And if you look back to the year where labor was so incredibly bad and the library went broke, their spending was $184,000. This budget calls for $172,000 of spending on labor, which is still probably $50,000 more than it should be to operate what we're operating there.
So these jobs, are these for people that are living here? We're not trying to entice somebody from moving in from the city to take one of these jobs.
Every job is filled right now except the head librarian. There's been a couple rounds of applications for head librarian, and so far as yet no one's been found that was a suitable candidate. I don't know if that's going to change in the near future. Certainly there's hope it will.
Yeah.
We did have a person here from Public Library Services who, as nicely as she could, essentially said, for what you're offering, nobody's moving here for it.
Yeah.
So it would have to be somebody that's here
Here already,
already.
that's just looking for
Yeah.
type.
And we know we're not going to find anyone with library experience because all the people with library experience already work for us or are retired from working for us. But management experience is what's needed there. The unfortunate part is, at the very same time we're posting a job here for more money per hour and more hours per week. For someone that if they had the same management experience to run that library, we would gladly be taking them here and training
You
them.
scoop them up here.
Yeah. So I don't know what chance the library has, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to continue to be a concern for the board. Outside of the budget, I did also explain to the board the changes we made to our appointment structure here, because the current board chair has found a new employment opportunity. Feels they won't have as much time to be board chair. So I made the offer that if they wish to swap that around some more and find a new chair of the board, that we're in a position to have someone do that for them. Let's see what happens. Any other questions on the library? I don't have any correspondence listed here tonight. We have received correspondence just in the last hour or so. It's not time sensitive. We're just going to pop it into next meeting. It's a request for funding. So I think we'll put it on the next agenda. They're looking for $1,000 for an event, but it's not until June. So we have some time to think about it. So we'll bring that back next time around rather than rushing it tonight. We will move to unfinished business 9-1, the gravel hauling tenders. Now, I did not reattach everything from last meeting. I don't know, Councillor Zbirun wasn't here then, and Councillor McGregor, you weren't here. Have you seen the stuff on the last agenda for them?
No.
Okay,
Would you like to see a paper copy?
we have a paper copy for it now. Do you want to go in camera to discuss it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move this in camera. We have a proposed resolution here, but the resolution is just what was proposed last meeting. There's been no changes.
Okay.
And at last meeting, Councillor Blosha and Councillor Kushniryk wanted to have input from Councillor Zbirun and Councillor McGregor. So that's why it sort of got delayed in the meeting, so you folks will have a chance to talk about it too.
Okay.
So we'll take that topic in camera and discuss, and it's our hope that we will pass a resolution of something to get this awarded when we're done the in-camera session. Not necessarily what's written here, but something. So the award is done and we can move on with that. We'll move to number 10, committee reports and communications. Let's start with Councillor Zbirun.
Okay, we did discuss, I didn't get home till about 10:30 last night.
Good job.
They're gonna have a fish and chips supper on April the 13th, Saturday, $20 a ticket. If anybody's interested. And I mentioned those emergency lights. And then they wanna also have another comedy night, but that won't be till November the 8th. I'm not sure, like we discussed about opening the restaurant. I don't know how that's gonna work with their supper, I don't know if somebody's renting the restaurant, where are they gonna, so maybe they're not planning on leasing it out till after April, I have no idea, but whatever.
Yeah, and then there's some finer details there that I think have to be worked
Mhm.
out.
Anyway, that's all I do.
Right. Councillor Neely,
Nothing to report.
Councillor McGregor,
Nothing to report.
Deputy Reeve Burick.
Nothing to report. We're having a airport commission meeting tomorrow at 7 o'clock. That's our first one. And
Good job.
I just want to say that I myself had personally a lot of compliments about dumpsters in Bozeman, also the dumpsters in Durban, not Durban, there are dumpsters in Durban, but Kemble. A couple of residents there are really happy to see those in Kemble. Had compliments about our snow removal this last storm, done quick. Also they liked your update as well. A lot of good people like that update, so we'll have to keep it up, ongoing.
We discussed that, that's coming out of your endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But no, a lot of good comments about everything. Positive, very positive for this council.
It's always nice to hear positive things.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
And there has been some problems, but we're trying very hard to deal with them as they come up, rather than leave people feeling like they were ignored, which I think helps. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
So a few items from me. We talked a little bit about the Reeve board meeting already, so I won't belabor that point. I did some work with Scott and Jody on some signs for the recycling dumpsters in Benito to try and encourage people that really is only recycling in those dumpsters. So I think they're attached already, or they will be shortly, that explains the recycling. We also did some signs, just like the cheap laminated things I made for them, for the dumpsters in Durban and Kenville, explaining the idea of household garbage, and if you have a large amount of garbage, you need to go find the landfill. If you have a roll of carpet, specifically a roll of carpet, that is not appropriate for the Kenville dumpsters again. We've removed the carpet, but it would be nice if it didn't return. Building materials are not household garbage for those dumpsters, but we're working on that. In both communities, I think we have some very motivated individuals who wish to retain that dumpster service, who are working the best of their
They'll
ability.
police it.
Yes, they're working hard at figuring out who doesn't do things right and speaking to them for us, so that's good to have help like that. I was doing some public works review. I'm trying to think about what I did that day that called the public works review. But that must be the day I was talking to Scott. I met with Scott, we were discussing capital works and capital projects and the road work for 218, because it's the only road in the north that needs anything.
One of the roads that needs,
We're discussing the two airport roads, the gravel one that needs to be fixed, but also the pavement that's honeycombing, if anything we're gonna do there. And some crack sealing for a bunch of pavements, we discussed through a bunch of that. So he's still working on some numbers. The preliminary thoughts though for 218, just throw this out there because you guys know roads better than I do. We're talking about like 500 yards, a mile of gravel onto it, but doing it in 3 lifts, so do 150, water it, pack it a couple times with the grader, with the packer, put another 150 on the next day or the next hour, as soon as the packing's done. Another 150, same thing, watered again, then put a third 150 on, maybe at 200, whatever we get, watered again, pack it, with the idea of putting several inches on there, packed on with water, so it's solid.
With clay in it.
Yeah. And see if we can't, build that particular road up, and then probably repeat that in a few other places. There's some spots, like on 198, there's 2 or 3 spots that needs 300 or 400 feet of that. There's just little spots that are turning black where the rest is kind of okay. And there's some roads, miles that need it.
Either that or you dig it out and put geotextile under it.
Yeah. And the same thing, similar for that airport road, it's gravel. Doing some work there to get those shoulders so there's not that dip up to the shoulder, and build some gravel up there with some clay and make it so
The
it
shoulders,
sit.
the ditch is higher than the road. Looks funny.
I just wanna ask that 216, that's a very good plan, but there's rocks coming up in places. Should they be scarified or dug out, or like before we do apply all that gravel? Like, it's a good thing to apply that gravel, but I mean.
Prevailing thought is no, because the rocks aren't necessarily coming out as we're going to them.
Because we scarified that road, do you remember we scarified that?
216.
216, that's what did I say? I said
218 is what I'm thinking you're
Yeah,
talking.
218 is the one we're talking
The
about.
Pioneer
Okay,
Road.
all about 216 then.
Talking about 218 at the moment.
Okay, I mean, there's some rocks on that one too, not as bad, but I mean, there are rocks popping up.
We dug a bunch out years ago.
We did, yeah, scarify them, pick them up, we got the stone picker, pick them
Cook
up.
did it.
Yeah.
And
we're
we
out there.
picked them up.
We picked them up, yeah. Excellent job, and like, I mean,
And there could be some rock removal done.
Yeah.
There's kind of 2 thoughts on that, right? You can go dig out all the rocks, but the rocks that are coming up is the pit run that's in the road. Because we've worn the road down to the pit run.
that too, yeah.
So if you're gonna dig all the pit run out, then what's next? So,
Rocks always have a way of moving to the surface.
Yeah, they always come up. But, no, okay.
But if you put a foot up, you put a foot on it, I mean, that's,
it'll stay for a while. Library meeting, we talked about that, that was a couple hours of great fun that night. During the cemetery meeting I mentioned. So here's the cool thing, a couple of cool things. Community Economic Development Officer Training. So I spent a couple days in Dauphin taking training from the Economic Developers Association of Manitoba. So I am now a half-trained economic development officer. which is kind of nice.
Good for you.
There is more training to do to finish it off, but half done. So once you do all the training, there's an exam to write, and then you're a certified economic development officer, which won't get me any more pay, but it sure will be nice to know how to do
We
it.
don't wanna see that on your resume.
No. So I brought you a gift from Duff. And I'll make you suffer through this for a few meetings, but tonight, this was presented to me. Only one person got a bucket. So here's the bucket. This is the bucket that represents the economy of the Swan River Valley. So we spent, obviously, these are very intensive days because it should be a lot more than 2 days of training to get through half of the curriculum. It's go, go, go. So one of the things we talked about for a bit, and I found everybody in the room responded well, so that's why it's here tonight, is that the bucket is a great way to think of the economy. So in the bucket world, everything we bring into our valley is going into the bucket for money, right? So if we have people coming from away to spend here, if we have products like Spruce Products and LP Makes that we're selling someplace else, that revenue goes into the bucket. Everything that gets spent here is money circulating in the bucket. It's like water that stays in here. But unfortunately, you can see where this is going, it also leaves the bucket. So every time somebody goes shopping out of town, there's a hole in the bucket and something leaks out. Every time someone goes on a vacation someplace, another hole in the bucket. Every time there's a product or service you can't get locally or you choose not to get locally, another hole in the bucket. So we spent, one of the sessions was looking at all the different things that happen, what puts into the bucket, what takes out of the bucket, and what keeps things in the bucket. So I won't put you through the whole hour lecture, but it's a very interesting way to think about what we're always trying to accomplish, to always have more coming into the valley than we have going out, because the more that comes in, the more houses we see, the more businesses we see, the more jobs there are, and the more people that are here. And unfortunately, the more that leaks out of the bucket, the worse it is for the valley. So I'll show you the bucket, because not often I get a gift like that. On the Rise front, I met with the layout team for the business opportunity guide that's being made, so we've got the prep work is well underway for that. Some proofing's supposed to be ready in the next coming days, so Rise is hard at work working on the economic development aspect of promoting the valley some more. And that brings me back to our previous meeting. Do we have anything from the CAO that you wish to report? Oh. So we are in discussions about doctors in Benito. We haven't had for a while. And there may not be the availability of a doctor, but there may be the availability of a nurse practitioner to begin attending Benito again to offer local appointments. Early discussions, we won't know more for a few days. Typically, for the last several years, we've budgeted for that. And we've paid about $500 a trip for someone to appear in Benito and take appointments.
That hasn't happened since 2020.
2020 was the last time that it happened. It kind of stopped with COVID, right? It never restarted. So there's discussion going on if it would be the same amount if it was a nurse practitioner. They can certainly do almost everything that would be done in Benito at those appointments, but certainly people would appreciate having that back. And there is some interest from a healthcare professional in doing that. So we're going to see if the stars can align to get that service back to Benito.
This is somebody that's here already local.
Yes. So it
So
would be a
we've
good thing.
been budgeting for this since
We've been-
2020?
Yeah.
In the proposed budget we just had, we took it out because we haven't
That's what
spent the money.
I thought we were gonna
We
remove
took
it,
out.
it wasn't there.
There was 10,000 in there when you were doing the rural and urban separately. And then last year there was 5,000 in there, of course. There was no service, so none of that was spent.
Something was ringing a bell here that we weren't gonna do it or something. That's what it was.
So we should know the answers to that before our budget meeting. So we can discuss what the cost would be if we want to do it, how that looks.
Well, I don't think there's be any argument against doing it. I can't see that.
Doubt that. It's a good service to have. It lets people stay at home, right? And
I
that's,
don't know, maybe leave more room at the clinic for other people. I mean, it's whatever, the more you get, the better, right?
any conversation, questions on anybody's reports, anything that went on? All right. We will take a recess for about 10 minutes. When we return, we'll be going in camera to discuss all of those topics we sent to in camera, as well as a legal matter and some HR discussion.
Okay.
So we are in recess until then. We move to section 11 of the agenda. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523 of the Municipal Act, Council shall meet as a committee of the whole to close the meeting and continue discussions in camera regarding HR, negotiations, preliminary discussions, unresolved legal matters, and investigations or enforcements of an act or bylaw. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Burick, and someone to second it. Councillor Neely. Any discussion? We'll call the question. Those in favour? That is carried. Coming out of the in-camera session, we are going to return to our unfinished business 9-1 gravel hauling tenders. We have a resolution, whereas the tenders were received for the supply and application of gravel to municipal roads. We should change this for the application. This is not the supply. Whereas tenders were received for the application of gravel to municipal roads for the 2024 season, and whereas the tender provided for submissions to be made for Area 1 and or Area 2, therefore, be it resolved that the tenders be accepted as submitted and awarded as follows. Area 1 will be awarded to JTL Backhoe Services Limited. Area 2 will be awarded to Cook Brothers Cartage Limited. So someone who wishes to move the resolution. Councillor McGregor, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. Any discussion on this? We thank everyone who applied. It's always nice to have people bid on our tenders. Hearing no discussion, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That is carried. We don't have any other resolutions. We can only provide brief updates in that we did discuss some HR matters and we will be posting some positions imminently. So folks could be looking forward to those appearing shortly, both online and wherever else we post such things. Is there any other discussion for council tonight, arising from in camera or otherwise? Are there any notices of motion tonight? Anyone with a notice to present? Hearing none, we'll move to number 13 on the agenda. Be it resolved, this meeting shall now adjourn at 9:58 p.m. And be it further resolved that the next meeting is Tuesday, March 26, 2024 at 7 p.m. Moved by Councillor Neely and seconded by Councillor Zbirun. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That's carried. Reminder to council next Thursday for a budget meeting at 7 p.m.
Okay. Next Thursday.